What is up with companies wanting constant, consistent growth every quarter year? This is absolutely ridiculous. Granted, I have only entered the working corporate world a few years ago. It's bonkers to me how they aim for high growth every single year. There has to be a point where one-upping the previous year becomes impossible. No? So then why do they continue to promote as such, even if it means a stressed work environment for the employees? It should be about balance. I work at a Fortune 500 company. Recently they've increased the agile pace from 3 weeks to 2 weeks, and this tremendous change has led to more growth and projects, but also more stress on the employees. Oftentimes it's so fast that we hardly get to know why and what we're working on. More bugs, and plenty of items spill over to the next sprint. I'm able to adapt well enough, but this isn't right. 1. Capitalism 1. To pay unsustainable dividends to their shareholders if the company is publicly traded. Cancer. Economic dogma. Nothing more. Great question. Something I've been wondering. Another thing I wonder about is whose idea was it to operate businesses at zero inventory? It's the only way for banks to make money, and the defining fatal flaw of the capitalist system. Lol. I had a CEO that once said that every plant had to double profits every 2 years or he'd close the plant. That's not how math works. Capitalism ceases to function when the infinite growth forever train stops. Shareholders. Wait until you get to consistent cost reduction every period. If anyone wants to know how this got started, read The Man Who Broke Capitalism by David Gelles. Fuck Jack Welch. Greed. The unlimited growth model is like a drug to them, and they just can't quit it. It is ultimately unsustainable, and it's inherently built into capitalist economies. Shareholders. It is, and it's the downfall of this capitalism that we currently live in. It will end eventually if we can't shift our collective focus to sustainability instead of growth. And I don't want to think about societal collapse. But it is coming. Because capitalism is cancer. To meet stockholder-investor legal obligations. Infinite growth with finite resources. That math's up. It's a cancerous mindset. Consistent growth isn't even enough, it needs to be accelerating growth. You know, I started asking my manager about this, and a week later I was fired. More money, more investors, 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 more money, more investors. More money, more investors, more money, more investors, more money, more investors. Maybe they'll finally figure out why their dads left them. The people who run those companies get 7 or 8 figure bonuses for beating quarterly earnings estimates. So they'll do anything, destroy the business, destroy the lives of the workers, destroy the environment, etc. to do that. Just plain old sociopathic greed. Capitalism requires constant unchecked growth, or it withers and dies. Just like cancer. It's required by law that they seek maximum profit for shareholders if they are a publicly traded company. If they aren't going for consistent growth and they are found to intentionally ignored potential profit, shareholders tend to start suing. Because constant growth and revenue increases are the only way stock prices increase. This is why they're inserting microtransactions into everything now. BC money isn't real. Greed. Capitalism. And it's built to break, but they don't care. They will just squeeze for as long as they can. It's a capitalism. Companies have to grow every single year and it's exceed profits from the last year to make sure that the shareholders' needs are being met financially. Another reason is that if a company is not growing year after year, it will inevitably be consumed by a larger company. The people at the top are paid in company stocks. Growth increases the stock price. This makes them money when they sell their stocks. Because the executives have only a few quarters at the top to get huge bonuses and cash stock options, they are looking toward their multi-million-dollar payday, not company profit and employee livelihoods in 5 years. That's capitalism, baby. That's so you can understand that the current economic model is based on cancer. Greed. I questioned why a non-profit wanted to make money. That got me put on a list of the bad employees. I was always told growing up, if your business isn't growing, it's dying. They call that cancer in the medical field. What until you see what happens when you pay your workforce so little they can't participate in capitalism anymore. Almost there. Get ready. They have a money god they want to appease and they sacrifice their employees to appease it. Bump Agile while we are at it. Because capitalism. That's the only metric they care about measurement-wise. While being too socialist is bad. USA is starting down a part of too capitalistic, and over the next few decades you will see it just as bad as too socialist. Just different symptom types. Gonna sound like a shill, but the reality is that if you're not growing, you're shrinking. Inflation is up each year. Expenses go up, i.e. your salary, hopefully each year. Even if only 2-3. To keep up with that, companies need to grow. Workers want regular raises, and well, they should. The cost of doing business goes up just like the cost bread and milk as inflation rises. Would you be happy with a household income that stagnates or even decreases? Most people on this thread would agree that is not acceptable. But it also can't happen in general if your workplace isn't growing as well. Because if you don't grow, you're actually doing worse. Inflation. Everyone should think like that. No raise? That's actually a pay cut. What did I do wrong? If the stock market and your 401 kiloseconds, IRAs, pension funds, etc. is to keep going up, the value of companies has to go up. Blood from a stone. If you squeeze hard enough, blood comes out. If it stops coming out, squeeze harder until more blood comes. Repeat ad infinitum. Perpetual blood. Capitalism isn't simply based on making a profit, it's based on infinite profit growth. Because companies need to provide value to its investors. If they don't, those investors will pull their money and invest in another company that will. Corporations are, by design and structure, utterly psychopathic. So the answer to what's up is always corporate fascist C-suite turdwookies getting greedier. You know, Mr. Burns. You're the richest guy the first no. Way richer than Lenny. Homer Simpson. Ah yes. But I'd trade it all for a little more. Mr. Burns. It is impossible. I worked retail management for a number of years. Every year a manager is given an unrealistic goal to meet, always surpassing the precious year. I can say from experience big gains come after bad years, either from poor previous management or a recession. By the same token, bad years come as a result of awful economy or terrible management. In other words, numbers are up and down, and if you're really fortunate you can have 4 or 5 years of increases, but not indefinite ones. Capitalism cancer. What rules do you follow? The rules of capitalism. That's why